if we had told you you're dyslexic, you would never be a doctor.
So you mentioned before that you were diagnosed with dyslexia late. Do you mind telling me a bit more about your experiences?
So my baby sister, when I say baby, she's 23. My baby sister is a teacher now, but she specializes in educational psychology. And she sat me down one day and she was like, I think you're dyslexic. And I was just like, but I'm in my late 20s. I can read. She was like, you're going back to school now. You can get freely assessed. So I was like quite dyslexic when I got assessed. And then it put the context of like my childhood into perspective. So like I was good at maths. I struggled with English. I used to hate reading out loud. Even now when I do TV, teleprompter stuff I find really difficult. I wish I knew this information when I was younger. I wish someone had just been like, the problem with school, well, not schools, I think education is that I still got an A in English. And so because I just memorized essays. So schools don't care about a kid getting A's and he should be getting A stars. They're just like, he's getting A's, he can read. Whereas I just put in the work, so I got stuff. I wish I knew it a bit earlier. And I wish I didn't think I was stupid. I just thought I had to work way harder than everyone else. There's a reason for that, which makes it a lot easier. It's more self-knowledge, do you know what I mean?
So how old were you when your sister sat you down and said that?
28, I think. She was just like, you can't read good. And I was like, I can't read good.
And was there anything, did she say there was anything in particular that would like...
Oh, no, I just can't text. My texting is terrible. Like I generally, if I don't proofread my text, it literally is gibberish. Like, so you get told that as a kid of immigrants, that your English should be worse or your spelling should be worse. And you just kind of think that's how it is. That was a difficult part for me, kind of accepting that. I think it was more the fact that, oh mate, I wish I could go back and be kinder to younger me. Do you know what I mean? Like, just go back and go talk to like 12-year-old me. Like, you're not an idiot. Like, you just find it harder, and that's okay. And I wish I'd like put in the extra work or like had the extra support earlier.
Yeah, I know a lot of the pieces we have from people who get later life diagnoses, whether that's like ADHD or dyslexia, they always say that it's just like just the hindsight that it provides you, the kind of reflection it makes you reanalyze every part of your life growing up to that point.
Yeah. So a lot of my friends are doctors, right? So it makes so much sense now. So I remember saying to my mate, when you do like multiple choice questions, don't you just read the answer and guess the question? And he was like, no one does that, Amos. I was like, oh.
It must be really hard as well, considering that you knew you wanted to be a doctor from age 12. You knew that was like one of the most taxing careers in terms of like research and education, and then at the same time contending with the fact that you thought you were stupid.
It makes like the hindsight is 2020. When I used to read back stuff or like get things read to me or like lectures, I just would get it like that. But medicine's quite complicated, as you'd probably expect, and it's all full of Latin and whatnot. But once I get it in my mind, it's there. So I wish I knew more about it, the diagnosis earlier, but it does change how I view younger me, and it makes this negative self-talk. Like, I used to always call myself stupid. Like, why are you so stupid? Why can't you do this? And my friends would like, I had a girlfriend at the time would be able to like read so much quicker than me. And I'm like, why can't I do that? Obviously it makes sense now. Do
you think also that all that negative self-talk as a young person impacted your mental health? Would you say they're very much linked?
100%, 100%. Like, if you battle to think that people like you and you battle constantly to think that you are worthy, then anything that doesn't come naturally to you becomes a negative, vicious cycle of negativity in your mind. My parents actually say something really interesting, and I'm not sure where I sit with this, really interestingly, because I do think it was mentioned that I might be dyslexic when I was younger. Like, but my parents were like, if we had told you you were dyslexic, you would never be a doctor. And I remember thinking, my sister said that to me as well. And they're like, if we had given you an excuse not to do well, you would have. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm still struggling with that, actually. I don't know the answer to that. So a really funny story is that I was head boy of my school, but I was put in bottom sets from the first, because I didn't do well in the exams. So I was in bottom set for science. I'm a doctor now, which is hilarious. But like, basically, I'm from a counter state. If I was dyslexic, they would just think I was stupid. And my parents were just like, we don't want to give you that label. Like, if we give you that label, you want to, like, being middle class there's lots of people who were in my med school who were diagnosed dyslexic, but they're none of them from my background. Like, you don't want them to give someone an excuse to think you're not as good. And my parents have that mentality, and I get that. I don't think if I had children that were dyslexic, that I would do the same. But then again, I'm now middle class, so it's very difficult to imagine what it's being like being my parents, moving your family over to a different country, and someone's telling your 10-year-old that they're probably dyslexic. You think that's a label that they don't need. So I let that go.
Yeah, that is a really interesting thing, and I don't think that's like that uncommon as well. We've also heard from people who their parents withhold it because it is a label that has ramifications about how people.
Yeah, it's a really negative thing. I think that's a positive. That's a good message. That's a message to get, that you can be. I actually remember a patient coming in, and she was 16, 17, sharing with her mum, and they were like investigating her for dyslexia. And I just said, I'm dyslexic. And then she was like, you're dyslexic. And I was like, yeah. And her mum was like, see, you can be a doctor and still be dyslexic. And I was like, oh my God, like, of course she thinks she's not going to be able to do this because she's dyslexic. And it was a really nice moment. I was like, yeah, I'm dyslexic too. And it was like, she was chatting. It's like, yeah, you just get the stuff that helps. And I think that people think dyslexia is synonymous with lack of achievement.
I suppose it's also, there's stigma around dyslexia because people, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. There's stigma around it, and people think they can't do well because they haven't seen people do well with dyslexia before.
Yeah.
But also, those people lack the support that they needed to thrive with dyslexia before. So actually, it's not a bad thing. It's just
you have to see it to believe it's achievable, right? So and that's a real thing. So I get a lot of messages from like young Black kids who are like, mate, you're not really particularly geeky looking and you're a doctor. And they're like, yeah, because my parents really are like, I have friends who are like family members who are doctors. I'd seen it. Like my mum's sister is a doctor, and so is my little sister. Like we'd seen someone do it. Whereas there's lots of kids who like come from my background who just haven't seen it. So I often go back. So I go back to my school to chat to people, and then I go to schools and chat to people, because people don't like, you have to bear in mind, this is probably like most people's representation of a doctor isn't me, which is true. Like people don't, when they think of doctor, they don't think of like a 6'2" Black guy. they don't. So it's really nice to be like, oh, right, you have to see the achieve it. And actually good to do that for dyslexia as well, because if you don't see dyslexic people doing cool things, you don't think it's possible to do it.